For each of us, our moms are the best and the most beautiful, the strongest, the most tender. But here's a little video about some of the most unusual and unique moms in the world, whose existence you might not have even imagined. A bit like this bodybuilder mom with buckling muscles, or the 60-year-old granny who defies the law of nature by giving birth to 2 children. Judith Minda's story revolves around the number 3, which must surely be her lucky number. This young 30-year-old from Norway indeed grew up as a triplet, since she was born at the same time as her 2 sisters. But the number 3 was not going to let her go anytime soon, because once she got married and decided to have children, it manifested itself once again in her life, and in a way she really didn't expect. Young Minda received the news that she was pregnant with triplets, as if by chance. Imagine the confusion this young mother-to-be must have experienced, having to make 3 times the effort, prepare 3 bottles at once, change 3 diapers, and pamper 3 little cherubs at the same time. But then Minda remembered the incredible closeness and love she had with her 2 sisters, and she took comfort in that. For she knew that her 3 little offspring would enjoy the same things as she and her sisters, and maybe one day they too would have triplets of their own. Judith Minda's story ends here, but you should know that she is currently with her 3 little angels, probably pampering them. And the last I heard, she was teaching them the basics of mathematics, focusing, as you might expect, on the number 3. Some couples are real little bunnies, who if led to their own devices could repopulate the entire planet on their own after a zombie apocalypse. Influencer Jalanka and her young husband, Michael Rosario, could, for example, fill a whole school bus with their 11 offspring, or even form a local soccer team. Jalanka Rosario is in fact the biological mother of her 11 children, which means that she had 11 pregnancies and 11 deliveries. This, dear friends, is what we call a feat in itself, and if you think otherwise, you have never had children. Now take a good look at this picture and tell us what you think of these 2 young and beautiful beauties. You might think they are sisters, and you might be right, because deep down they look almost exactly alike. But you'd be wrong, because these 2 women are in fact connected by a completely different relationship. The girl in the ponytail is called Kat Zoe Clark, and she is in fact the mother of Letitia, the beautiful young lady with long black hair. The 2 young women have just celebrated their respective birthdays, 35 years for Kat and 18 years for Letitia, her daughter. But as you can see, you really can't tell the difference in the street. Besides, it is not rare that the 2 young women have to literally take out their papers to be able to prove their identity and the parental link which unites them. The Tran triplets must necessarily be followers of the proverb that says, never 2 without 3, and for good reason. These 3 sisters of Vietnamese origin were born within 3 minutes of each other, and they look like 2 drops of water. Well, like 3 drops of water rather. However, the most fascinating thing about the destiny of these 3 sisters is that they all got pregnant at almost the same time, which means that they will have 3 simultaneous births in a few months. So, is it the fruit of chance or a kind of metaphysic fixation of the number 3 in their lives? They don't care if you ask them, because between us, the more the merrier. And with the Tran sisters, we can definitely say that the 3 of them are a pair. After a certain age, women can no longer procreate. This is what the doctors and scientists commonly call menopause. However, the 60-year-old Chinese woman doesn't seem to be aware of this academic truth, and therefore decided that being in her 60s was not going to prevent her from having children, because it was her decision after all. You probably think that she was terribly disappointed, right? Well, think again, because the Chinese grandmother was indeed able to get pregnant, but using in vitro fertilization. She was then able to give birth to 2 beautiful and healthy babies, although they weighed a little less than 2 kilos each at their birth. Life goes on for the 60-year-old mother, who can also boast of being the oldest mother in the whole Chinese continent. Nowadays, most women give birth in especially equipped maternity hospitals and are assisted by experienced midwives or doctors. But you have to know that our ancestors didn't have all these luxuries. And believe me, women didn't struggle only a little before giving birth. Josie Pukert is a 37-year-old mother who, after having given birth twice in a conventional way, decided that her third child was going to be born in a completely different way and closer to nature. The young mother chose to give birth alone, without the help of anyone, and to do it in a very unusual place, the Pacific Ocean. Josie gave birth to her third child on the beach of Playa Macagual in Nicaragua. Rocked by the waves and the sea breeze, Josie gave birth without any problem, and little baby could start his life by a little swim in the Pacific Ocean. Early motherhood is still a taboo subject in most of the human societies, but this is not what prevents young girls from getting pregnant all over the world. The little Daphne is a young Mexican schoolgirl of 9 years old who has just given birth to a little girl. The young Mexican girl became pregnant at the age of 8. Following unprotected relations that she had with her boyfriend of 17 years. It is thus very clearly a case of abuse on minor, although the young girl assures to whoever wants to hear it that it was a consenting and clearly assumed relation. But the fact is that at 8 years, the body of a woman is not entirely constituted, and a pregnancy at this early age can prove to be very dangerous for the state of health of the mother as well as the child to be born. Here is a story of motherhood that is, to say the least, sordid and unhealthy, and that will certainly make you rise the hairs on your body. Cecile Elge is a 61-year-old American woman who thought that the best idea of the century would be for her to give birth to a baby, even though she had been menopausal for a long time. But the most shocking thing in this case is that it will be her own homosexual son who will be the father. Yes, thanks to in vitro fertilization, Cecile was able to carry the baby of her own son, who is a sperm donor on occasion and who is currently in a relationship with her boyfriend. Cecile will be inseminated by her own son. Then she will give birth to a girl, who is at the same time her daughter and her granddaughter, literally incestuous. But honestly, what's wrong with that? What kind of world are we living in? Does this old lady even know how ignominious what she helped to do is? Surely not, considering the smile on her face. Our mothers are our nurturers and protectors, first in the warmth of their wombs, and then in the warmth and love of their hugs. Here's the case of a supermom who decided to dedicate her life to her sick child, in order to be constantly with her and make sure she never lacks anything. Wildino Moth is an 18-year-old American girl who suffers from Satin dysplasia, the rarest form of dwarfism. She's only 72 centimeters tall and has even been cataloged by the Guinness Book of Records as the shortest woman in the world. With such a tiny size, the poor young woman can't even walk, and many of the tasks of our daily life are almost impossible for her to do. But Wildine can always count on the precious help of her dear mother, who decided to leave everything to be able to devote all her time to her. The 18-year-old even declared that her mother was really her motivation to live, and that without her, she would have died long ago. And here is another case of a motherhood that is, to say the least, strange and unhealthy, since here again it is about a mother who is practically unique in the world, but unfortunately not on the right side. Manisha is an Indian transvestite from the state of Chhattisgarh who decided that he wanted to be a mother even though this completely flouts the laws of nature. So he started to collect the orphan children he meet in the street and started to adopt them properly. Well, not really, because in this part of the world called India, the administration is a real chaos. Anyway, today Manisha is the mother, or rather the adoptive father, of 8 abandoned children, the youngest of whom is a boy barely 7 months old. And now a real miracle has happened in Morocco, where we have seen the birth of triplets. Yes, you heard me right, triplets. That is to say, 9 newborns from the same mother. This incredible mother is called Halima Cissé, And she is a young Malian woman from Timbuktu who had to be transferred in emergency to a Moroccan hospital in order to give birth in the best possible conditions. At first, everyone thought that the young woman was pregnant with septuplets, but during the delivery it turned out that it was indeed 9 children that she had carried during her last 9 months. Having undergone a cesarean section, the young Malian woman and her 9 little ones are in very good health and have finally returned safely to Mali. Marie-Pierre Dupont-Martineau is a young Quebec bodybuilding enthusiast whose muscular body has nothing to envy to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Her bulging muscles, which seem to be sculpted out of rock, allow her to develop phenomenal strength, especially for a woman. But Marie-Pierre is not only a bodybuilder, since she also has full-time job as a young mother. At 35, this inflated creature is indeed the mother of 3 children, whom she must also style, prepare food, and take to school. Let's bet that these last ones must surely be very well behaved at home, because we can imagine that they don't want to upset their dear mom. And to finish, here's a bonus case that we decided to leave you until the end, so as not to leave you on your appetite. Here is Alfie Payton, a young British child of 13 years old, very tiny, and who, like all children of his age, prefers to spend his time collecting, playing cards, and playing PlayStation. But this young boy seems to have left the playground to become a dad. That's right, Alfie Payton became a father for the first time in his life at the age of 13, after a relationship with his 14-year-old girlfriend, Chantal Stedman. She became pregnant, and after a 9-month gestation period, she gave birth to a baby girl they named Roxanne. But you see, Alfie is not the real father of the baby because DNA tests have allowed to know it. The young boy can now go back to the carefree way of life that his age allows him to spend more time playing with a Spider-Man and Venom figures than with a girl of childbearing age.